All right, let's go. Science time, y'all. This is a subject that I know a little bit about. Scientists say that they have nailed down the ideal amount of sleep in middle and old age. So let's read this. Just kidding. All right, let's read this. The optimum amount of sleep is not too little, but not too much, at least in the middle and old age. New research has found that around 7 hours sleep, not to be confused with the word of, but 7 hours sleep is the ideal night's rest. With insufficient and excessive sleep associated with a reduced ability to pay attention, remember and learn new things, solve problems, and make decisions. 7 hours of slumber was also found to be linked with better mental health, with people experiencing more symptoms of anxiety and depression and worse overall well-being if they reported sleeping for longer or shorter stints. While we can't say conclusively that too little or too much sleep causes cognitive problems, our analysis looking at individuals over a long period of time appears to support this idea. Jianfeng Feng, a professor at China's Fudan University and an author of the study published in the scientific journal Nature Aging, said in a statement, "But the reasons why older people have a poorer sleep appear to be complex, influenced by a combination of our genetic makeup and structure of our brains." Researchers from China and the United Kingdom analyzed data from almost 500,000 adults aged 38 to 73 who were part of the UK Biobank, a long-term government-backed health study. Participants were asked about their sleep patterns, mental health, and well-being and took part in a series of cognitive tests. Brain imaging and genetic data were available for almost 40,000 of the study participants. Other research has found that older adults who have significant difficulty falling asleep and who experience frequent night awakenings are at high risk for developing dementia or dying early from any cause, while sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night has been linked to cardiovascular disease. Now, I want to intervene here to talk about how capitalism makes it so that sleep is something that, a lot of people, they only have time to work and to sleep, right? So, and a lot of people often, they accumulate sleep debt, right? Like, let's say if you're only sleeping for 4 to 5 hours a night because you're so busy working, right? That eventually, you start to have like sleep deprivation. Next time you sleep, right? If you only sleep 7 hours, you're not going to catch up, right? So you need to sleep 8 or 9 hours. It creates a very inconsistent sleep schedule, and inconsistent sleep schedules are worse than like a consistently suboptimal sleep schedule, right? Because your body is unable to adapt to what how much you're able to sleep and all that sorts of things. One reason for the link between too little sleep and cognitive decline could be because of disruption of deep sleep, where the brain repairs the body from days wear and tear and consolidates memories. Too little sleep is also associated with the buildup of amyloid, a key protein that can cause tangles in the brain that characterize some form of dementia. The study also said it's possible a prolonged sleep duration stems from poor quality fragmented sleep. Dr. Raj Das Gupta, a spokesperson for the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and assistant professor of clinical medicine at the Keck School of Medicine at the University of South California. So many ofs and ats and all these like titles and labels. Like, my God, right? Like, I mean, like, people should be allowed to shout themselves out in their institutions, but my God, right? Like, can we shorten that sentence a little bit? Said that longer sleep durations have been associated with cognitive problems, but it wasn't entirely clear why. This sets a mark for future research and search for treatment, said Das Gupta, who wasn't involved in the research. Not involved. Why are they quoting this guy? I don't know. Sleep is essential as we get older, and we need just as much as younger people, but it's harder to come by. Now, again, this is all because of the capitalist structure of society, right? Like, it's not like there's anything inherent to being old that makes sleeping more difficult, right? It's just the way that our society is structured and how it damages our bodies over our lives. The study had some limitations. It only assessed how long the participants slept in total and not any other measure of sleep quality, such as waking during the night. What's more, participants reported their amount of sleep, so it was not objectively measured. However, the authors said the large number of people involved in the study meant its conclusions were likely robust. The author said that their findings suggested it was important that sleep, ideally around 7 hours, should be consistent. Now, again, that's what I was saying before. For those of you that don't know, I have studied sleep a little bit. I've read a couple books. I'm a little bit of a professional on sleep. I've slept a lot in my life. And so, again, for me, I find that even if my sleep is poor quality, but it goes over a consistent, period of time every day, that I perform better and I feel better throughout the day than if I'm just like, sleeping like a random amount. Like, so if I sleep like 12 hours one day or whatever, just because, I feel like it, and then I start sleeping like 3 hours the next night, and then I sleep like 9 hours the next night, right? I feel worse as a result. I'm constantly like trying to catch up, and like I'm in a, whereas even if you sleep consistently not the best, like let's say you only sleep 6 hours a night, that's probably better than sleeping 9 hours one day, 4 hours the next day, 5 hours, you know what I mean? So that's something I want to talk about. He also said that taking the average of 7 hours as the ideal amount of sleep ignores the fact that there's considerable individual variation in sleep duration and quality. Less or more sleep may be perfectly healthy for some individuals. So one thing is there's some gene that some people have where it means that they don't need to sleep as much as most people. There's like their way that their brain works or something. They can get by on like 5 hours of sleep or something. I don't know about that too much and how that relates to this study. But again, 7 hours, this is pretty much on par with what I've researched before, but it's always good to have more information on it. And all that kind of stuff. I think sleeping is one of the most important things that people don't really pay attention to, along with eating habits. I think a lot of people pay a little bit more attention to their eating habits and their sleeping habits, right? But I really genuinely think people really need to be present and like analyze how they sleep, how they eat, on a daily basis. For me, I keep a dream journal. If I don't sleep too well, I try to write that down as well as, just adjacent information. That kind of stuff, in my opinion, is very important to keep track of. And again, sleep is also very important. And it's very interesting that our structure of society with capitalism made it so that sleep is something that people can't get enough of, right? But you know what? You got to work, even if your productivity, let's say if you slept 8 hours, right, and you worked 6 hours, right, your productivity in those 6 hours might be more than if you slept 4 hours and worked 10 hours, just because, you're more, able to deal with the task at hand, you're able to concentrate and focus, right? But again, it's not about productivity. It's not about actually doing your job well. It's not actually about performing, right? It's about control. That is why capitalism is structured the way it is. It is about control. It is about keeping people as unhealthy as possible. It is about keeping people tired. They would rather have people being tired and working slower for 12 hours than being well rested and productive and do the same amount of work in 8 hours. Why? Because when they're tired, when they're less productive, they're more easily controlled. They are less likely to absorb new information. They are less likely to want to revolt in some way, maybe unionize, maybe do something, ask for better wages and so forth, right? So it's about control at the end of the day. That is how capitalism functions, and that is why sleep is something that, people in the modern day have such a struggle with. And, we need to pay attention to that kind of stuff. How much sleep do I get? I try to sleep around, at least 6 hours a night, but usually 7 or 8.